Hello everyone, Dan here from Dan's Tutorials. Today I've got some incredibly useful iPhone tips that are going to take your productivity to the next level. Now before we dive into today's video, if you find the tips in this video helpful and you're keen on learning more, make sure to watch till the end. I'll share a little bit more about myself and how you can support my efforts in bringing you these videos. Alright, let's get into it. Our first tip today is going to utilize Swipe to Text feature. This is a game changer for typing faster, especially when you're on the go. Let's go over to my iPhone and take a look at Swipe to Text. So I'm in my Notes app here, and what I want to do is start typing a note. So typically what we'll do is we'll just go in here and just tap on one key at a time, start typing a note. And while that does work pretty good, it's actually quicker if you use Swipe to Type. So how do we do that? Well, basically all we have to do is just go into this bottom area here and start swiping. We swipe over the keys that we want to type. We never lift our finger off of the keyboard. So if I wanted to type the word start, what I would do is I would just, with my finger, just go S-T-A-R-T. I would just kind of go back and forth with that. And if I wanted to use typing, I would just go and follow the keys to start typing. So I'm never lifting my finger off of the keyboard. So let's go ahead and type that same sentence, but this time we're going to use start to type, and I'm just going to swipe my finger over the keyboard here. So I go start, typing, A, and then I'll go note. And we can see that it typed the same sentence here, and all I did was use swipe to type. So that's our first tip, swipe to type. Now, in addition to using swipe to type for the keyboard, we also have an option to turn our keyboard into a trackpad. So if you need to move the cursor around, you can actually use the keyboard as a trackpad like you can on the Mac. Let's go back over to my iPhone and see how this works. So I'm looking at my note here, and what I would like to do is move my cursor, which is right down here. What I want to do is I want to move it up towards the beginning there. Now, how can I do that? Well, typically what we will do is we'll just tap in this area here and we can move it there. But also what we can do is we can use the keyboard here as a trackpad. And then we can just kind of move it around where we want. So how do we do that? Well, basically what we need to do is we just need to long press on the space bar. The keys will disappear and this area here will turn into a trackpad. So let's go ahead and do that. I long press on the space bar, the keys disappear, and look at the cursor there. You're going to see that I'm moving that cursor around as I'm dragging my finger around. So now I have my cursor here. Let's go ahead and put it right down here. Again, I long press on the space bar, and we can see that I'm moving that cursor up towards the top here. So in addition to swipe to type, we also have a trackpad built into our keyboard on the iPhone. Next, we're going to look at text replacement. This is for phrases that you find yourself typing over and over again. It could be something as simple as your email address or even a sentence. This little trick can save you tons of time. Let's take a look at text replacement. Let's go back over to my iPhone. So I'm back in my Notes app. I'm going to type in my email address. We're just going to use traditional typing here. So I type in here Dan, and then I have to go to the @ and then I type in Dan's Tutorials. And as you can see, this takes a little bit of time. Or maybe I'd like to type in a sentence, and I want to use a sentence a few different places. Maybe it's follow me at Dan's Tutorials. So I'm just going to type in here, follow me at Dan's Tutorials. Now that works well, but you're going to see that it didn't capitalize that. So I had to go in there and capitalize it. You know, it's something that I have to type in a lot. I don't really want to type all this out all the time, and I certainly don't want to type in my email address all the time. It'd be great if I could just use a shortcut, such as DT for Dan's Tutorials. Or maybe what I'd like to do is use SG for my signature here. So when I type out SG, what it's going to do is type out that sentence. Well, that's where this text replacement comes into play. Now, the first thing that we need to do is we need to copy or type in what we want. So I'm going to go with my email address first. So let's go ahead and copy this. And now what we need to do is we need to go to our Settings app. So I swipe up, we go over to Settings, and this is under Keyboard. So I go over to General here. Keyboard is located under General. And then you're going to see Keyboard here. This is where we can add our text replacements. So now all I need to do is just tap on this, and I tap on the plus up here. And what is the phrase? Well, the phrase is going to be what I want to type. So I'm just going to paste in here, Dan, and let's go ahead and correct my D here. So all I'm going to do is just press and hold on the spacebar, as we learned. Can be used as a trackpad. And now I just type in a lowercase d. Now the next thing that we need to do is we need to add the shortcut. So I'm just going to go with DT. So I type in here DT. Now anytime that I type DT, what it's going to do is type in Dan's Tutorials or type out Dan's Tutorials. So let's go ahead and try that. So I go back over to my notes. I'm just going to erase this. I want to type my email address. I go DT space, and look what happened. It put Dan's Tutorials there. Now, why did it capitalize it? Well, that's because it's the first letter in a sentence. If I go and do it again right over here next to it, being that it's no longer the first letter in a sentence, so I type in here DT, you're going to see that it put it as lowercase. So I could do the same thing with Follow Me at Dan's Tutorials. Let's just do that real quick. So I select this, copy it, done. We go back over to our settings, tap on the plus, we type in the phrase. I could capitalize it. I'm just going to leave it the same here. We'll just go with SG for signature. And now when we go back over to my notes and I type in SG space, you can see it put in there, Follow Me at Dan's Tutorials. So that's how we work with text replacement. The next thing we're going to look at is how we can customize our control center. The control center provides quick access to various controls, including your low power mode. Well, what we're able to do is customize what controls are in there. So if you like to use low power mode, you can add it to your control center. You have easy access to it. Let's see how this works. Let's go back over to my iPhone. So I'm looking at my iPhone here. Let's go ahead and go to my control center. I just swipe down from the top here, the upper right-hand corner. I'm looking at my control center. Now, right now, this control center is pretty bare bones. I took everything out that I possibly could. These are the controls that we need in there. We can't remove these controls. But what we can do is we can add more controls down here. In fact, if you're not using anything with HomeKit, we can actually remove this home here. That is always going to show. Well, if you don't have any HomeKit devices, maybe you don't want to have that show. These are the things that we can do when we customize the control center. So how do we do that? Well, basically what we need to do is we just need to go to our Settings app, and there's a control center setting. So let's go ahead and do that. So I go over to my Settings app, and then we swipe up, and you're going to see Control Center. So now I tap on that, and now I'm able to customize this. First thing I want to do is remove my home controls. Maybe I don't have any HomeKit items, so I'm just going to remove that. And now when we go to our control center, you're going to see I no longer have any of those home controls there. All right, that's the first thing. Now what I'd like to do is add some more controls. I use low power mode quite a bit. I also use the calculator quite a bit. So I'd like to add those to my control center. Well, if we look, you're going to see that we have included controls and more controls. Basically what we're going to be doing is moving these controls here up under here. So how do we do that? We just tap on the plus over here and it'll move it. So let's go ahead and move a couple of these over. I have an Apple TV, so I'd like to use my iPhone as an Apple TV remote. I also like to use the calculator, as I mentioned. There's low power mode in here, one of my favorite things to do to save battery life. And then we also have a few other items in here. I can add notes. I can also add a timer in there. And then when I'm done, all I have to do is just tap on those pluses. But when I'm done, you're going to see that I have these controls here. So now when I go to my control center, these are the controls that I just added. And we can also rearrange them by just dragging these up and down. So take a look at these controls here and see if there's any controls that you might want to add to your control center. Now the next tip is one of my favorite ones, and this is utilize low power mode to save battery life. If you're out somewhere, maybe you're at a concert, this is typically where it'll happen with me when I'm at a concert. My phone is trying to get on the network, and then all of a sudden my battery drains. Well, what a lot of people will do, let's go over to my iPhone. What a lot of people will do is they'll swipe up and then they force quit. Well, that really does not help out in saving your battery life. Why is that? Well, think of a regular computer. That's basically what this iPhone is a computer, right? Well, when you quit out of an app, let's go back over to your Mac or your Windows, and you open up an app, it takes a while, doesn't it? Because it has to reload it back in. It's using a lot of power to reload that back in. On the Mac, you might get 3 or 4 bounces in the dock to open up that app. All that is consuming battery life. So you don't want to force quit. What you really want to do is put your iPhone into low power mode. A couple different ways to do that. My favorite way is through the control center. You're going to see that I have it here. You need to make sure that it is added in your control center. All I have to do is just tap on that, and it'll go into low power mode. Your iPhone will basically work the same way. It's just not going to constantly check for mail. You have to open up the mail app and then it'll check for mail. It's not going to sync your photos as you take them. It's going to conserve battery life. But for the most part, your iPhone, you won't notice any difference with it, except one thing. Your battery will last longer. I mentioned there's a couple different ways to do this. You can also use Siri to go into low power mode. Just tell her that you want to go into low power mode and she'll go into low power mode. Now it'll automatically go out of low power mode when the battery hits 80%. So once you charge it, it'll automatically take it out of low power mode. So that's one of my favorite tips to conserve battery life when you're in those situations where you want to make your battery last a little bit longer. Turn on low power mode. Don't force quit apps. Turn on low power mode. Now the next tip I'm going to talk about is probably one that is not well known. We can customize our share sheet. Why would we want to do that? Well, let's go back over to my iPhone and take a look at the share sheet. I'm going to open up Safari here. Now, what I would like to do is share this with someone else, this web page. How do we do that? Well, basically what we need to do is we just need to go to the share icon. This is available in most apps, and when you go to the share icon, what we're able to do is share it via various methods. Now, what we're going to be talking about is right down here. What we're able to do is customize what is shown here. So how do I want to share this? Do I want to share it in messages? Do I want to write an email? Maybe I want to put it in my notes, or maybe I want to journal about it. All I have to do is just tap on how I want to share it up here, and it'll share that web page. Now, that's not necessarily the tip. What we can do is we can customize this. So maybe I never use mail to share something. Well, what I'm able to do is remove that. Or maybe I use another reminders, another task manager. I don't use reminders. I can remove that. I can even move these around. I could put messages over here. In order to do that, what we do is we just swipe all the way over to the left and you're going to see more. And when I tap on more, you can see that I have my favorites. These are always going to show. And then I also have suggestions. These are going to show depending on what you're trying to share. So in my case here, these will always show. So when I share something, it's going to be airdrop, messages, mail, reminders, notes. And then anything after that, depending on what I'm sharing, will change. Well, when we go up to edit here, what we're able to do is move these around, rearrange them, and we can even remove them. So let's say I do not use mail. I actually use Spark Mail. So I'm just going to remove mail here. And it is no longer in there. And if I had Spark Mail in here, what I'd be able to do, in fact, there it is, what I'm able to do is add that as a favorite. So I tap on the green plus, And now we can see we have Spark Mail. And again, I can move it. So now when I want to share something, you're going to see that I have messages, reminders, notes, and Spark Mail. I no longer have mail there. So we can customize how we want to share our items here. And again, this works across multiple apps. I go to Notes, and if I wanted to share this, I just go up to the share icon here. You're going to see that I have my messages, reminders, Spark. So that's how we can customize our share sheet. Now the next tip is a very important one, setting up a legacy contact. What does this mean? Well, basically a legacy contact is someone you designate to access your iCloud data after you pass away. So what they're going to be able to do is get at various items within your iCloud. So how do we do that? Well, it's pretty simple to do. All we have to do is just go over to our Settings app. I'm going to go over to my Settings app here. And then from here, what we do is we go over to iCloud. Under iCloud, you're going to see Sign In and Security. I tap on that. Takes a few seconds. And then what you're going to see is Legacy Contact. So now what you want to do is you want to tap on this, follow the instructions. Pretty simple to do. You can add more people in here. And then what that will do is allow this person, these people here, to access your iCloud data in your passing. It's pretty important if you want them to be able to access anything in your iCloud. Again, simple to do. Just go over to your iCloud security and then you can follow the instructions from there. Very simple to do, but very important. Now the next tip is also very important, medical ID. With a medical ID, what we're able to do is access any important health information, maybe what you're allergic to or anything like that, even when your iPhone is locked. You can access this from a locked iPhone. So then if you're in an accident, let's say, you would like them to know what you're allergic to. So how do we set up this medical ID? Well, this is done through the Health app. So let's go over to my Health app here. We can see I have it here on my home screen. And now what we need to do is we need to tap on our icon in the upper right-hand corner. This is where we have our account settings. So I go over to the icon here, and then you're going to see Medical ID. So from here, what you want to do is tap in here all of the information that you would like anyone to know. So we can see here that I put in here I had appendix cancer, I have my weight in there, I have my height, and then I also have the emergency contact. Now all of this information is accessible even when your iPhone is locked. So how does someone access this when your iPhone is locked? Well, let's go ahead and lock my iPhone and see how someone would access this. So my iPhone is locked here. So how does someone access this? Well, basically what they need to do is press in on the top volume button and the side button at the same time. And when they do, let's go ahead and do that. What you're going to see is Medical ID. So now all I need to do is just swipe over, and this phone will show all of the medical information here. And it is still locked. They're not going to be able to get at anything else, but they are able to see this information here. So you want to make sure that you set up your medical ID. And again, that is all done through the Health app. Just tap on the Health app, go to your account, and set up your medical ID. Now, you may have seen in the last tip, Emergency SOS. That's what we're going to look at in this tip, setting up an emergency contact for Emergency SOS. What is Emergency SOS? Well, when we go and hold that top button, the volume button on our iPhone and our side button, again, we just press them in. This is where we had our medical ID, if you recall. Well, we also have emergency call here. And when we tap on that, it'll call any local emergency services. But what we can also do is have it contact our emergency contact as well when we use that. So how do we do that? Well, basically what we need to do is we need to go to our Settings app. So I'm going to go over to my Settings app here. And then what we need to do is we need to go to Emergency SOS. So there's going to be a setting in here. You're going to see Emergency SOS. From here, what I do is I just go and set up all the different options. We can call with hold and release. We can call with 5 button presses, call after a severe crash, depending on which iPhone you have. And then down towards the bottom here, we also have emergency contacts. So what you're going to want to do is add any emergency contacts in here. So then when someone makes an emergency SOS call from your phone, it'll also contact their emergency contacts. So you'll just want to go into Emergency SOS under Settings and then add your emergency contacts here. No. All right, let's have a little more fun here. What we can also do is set up a specific vibration pattern for specific contacts. As an example, I keep my iPhone in my pocket. What I can do is I can set up a specific vibration pattern for my wife, Beth. And then when she calls, I'll be able to tell that it is Beth just by how it is vibrating. So how do we do that? Well, we do this through the Contacts app. So let's go over to my contacts. I searched for it earlier. You can see it's in my search results here. And we go over to the contacts. So I'm going to go over to Beth here. Now what we need to do is we need to edit this. We're going to edit the vibration pattern. So I swipe up, and what you're going to see here is ringtone. This is where we can set what ringtone is played when she calls. But on top of that, what we're also able to do is set the vibration pattern. So let's go ahead and tap on ringtone here. And then you're going to see haptics. So I tap on that. And now I can set up any one of these haptics here as a vibration pattern. So then when Beth calls, if I go with heartbeat here, what it's going to do is play a heartbeat when she calls. When you tap on any one of these, you will feel it on the iPhone, so you can kind of get a preview of what it feels like. So let's go with heartbeat here. It's just doing a little heartbeat there. Now, in addition to that, we can also create our own vibration. So we don't have to use any of these here. To create your own, you just go over here and you just start typing a vibration pattern. And then it'll remember it. And then if I go and save it and select that, every time that Beth calls, it's going to play whatever I created here. So that's how you can set up a custom vibration pattern for specific callers. Now, the next tip is something that I recently discovered. Screen distance. This was added with iOS 17, and you do need to have a phone that has Face ID. What this will do is this will detect how close the iPhone is to your face, and then it'll alert you when it's too close to your face. When it's too close to your face, it's really not good for your eyes, the health of your eyes. So basically what this will do is this just kind of monitors how close the iPhone is to your face and just gives you a little warning like, take the iPhone a little bit back from your eyes. So how do we turn this on? Well, this is done through screen time. So let's go over to my Settings app here. And then we swipe up until we find screen time. I really don't use screen time for much. Like I said, this is how I just stumbled upon it. I was just looking for a few things. But when you go to screen time here and you use an iOS 17 and you have an iPhone with Face ID, you're going to see that there is this screen distance. And it's a simple on and off. I tap on this and continue, continue, and then I make sure that this is on. And now when this is on, what it'll do is it'll alert you when the iPhone is a little too close to your eyes. So that's the new screen distance feature in iOS 17 with an iPhone and Face ID. Also, it does work on the iPad with Face ID as well, if you have an iPad with Face ID. Now, the last tip I'm going to talk about is silencing unknown callers. What we're able to do is automatically silence any calls that are not in your contacts. You're probably getting a lot of calls from telemarketers. The iPhone, or I should say cell phones, used to be pretty safe from that, but it seems like that safe period is now kind of done. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that those calls do not come through. They can go straight into voicemail, so they'll still get your voicemail, but it's not going to ring your iPhone. It's going to silence those unknown callers. So how do we turn that on? Well, again, this is done through the Settings app. So let's go back over to my iPhone and take a look at the Settings app. So I'm going to open up my Settings app here. And then what we do is we go over to Phone. So I swipe up and there's going to be a setting here called phone. And we have a number of different settings here, but the one that we're going to focus on is, when you swipe up here, is silence unknown callers. So I just go ahead and tap on that. I turn on silence unknown callers. And now, if the person is not in my contacts, it's going to go straight into voicemail. So they still will be able to contact you. It's just going to put them into voicemail as opposed to ringing your iPhone. Now, if you're expecting an important phone call from someone, what you may want to do is just turn this off temporarily. There's actually a shortcut that you can do for that. I'll provide a link in the notes on how you can create an easy shortcut to turn this on and off. But basically what you want to do is silence your unknown callers to get rid of those spam calls that we are starting to receive on a regular basis. So those are some of my favorite tips for the iPhone. Now, I mentioned that I would tell you a little bit more about myself at the beginning of the video. I saved this stuff for the end. Otherwise, people would probably just click away at the beginning, right? Well, if you're still here, you may be interested in what I have to offer. So I've been creating these tutorials, easy to follow video tutorials, for your Apple devices for over a decade. You can find these videos on YouTube and on my site, danstutorials.com. I have about 400 or so on YouTube. I've been doing my site for a lot longer, so I have about 2,000 of them on my site. I also have or host webinars and classes on a regular basis, about 3 times a month, and I've recently added an AI assistant that is modeled after a Mac Genius to my site. So if you have a problem with something, you can just go and ask the AI assistant. And in most cases, they'll be able to help you. So how can you help support all of this? Well, you can become a member of my site. When you become a member of my site, you no longer see any ads, so you're not going to get those YouTube ads. You're going to get access to my AI assistant, and you're also going to be able to register for any one of my classes and webinars that I hold on a regular basis. But probably most important, you're helping support a small business. It is just me. I work out of a corner office in my house, and I enjoy what I do here. So if you like what you see here, you can help support it by becoming a member, which then allows me to keep doing what I love. So that's a little bit about me. You can find out more at danstutorials.com. Thank you for your interest.